So here we go, my tips on how to work remotely. So the first thing is, well, I probably should give you some background. Basically, we have been forced by the government. Most businesses have been forced to close, and people therefore are required to work from home where it is possible. Luckily, about 3 years ago, I started making the transition from not just having a fixed location language school, but also to be able to work online. And I've been doing that for some years, which is great because I've got the experience behind me and I've got the technology and the resources, the infrastructure to be able to deliver classes online. But I must admit, it's been quite stressful and it's been quite an epic operation. I've got about six permanent teaching staff. And what I've had to do is I've had to train them in a very short space of time. Luckily, I started to see what was happening. So even before the government started to close everything down, I sort of saw what was coming. So I started to, prepare my staff for that. So, really important in these types of situations is to have a bit of foresight and see what's coming. Even if it doesn't come, it's better that you did prepare previously as opposed to just sitting around waiting. I know a lot of people who have language schools, and if they're not able to give classes online, they've pretty much been forced to close. And you can't really give classes online effectively over Skype because it's just a one-to-one call in many cases. There are very limited features. So you need to have a learning management system, so an LMS. Something like Moodle is great, and then you need to have the web meeting or video conference call software in place. So you need to be able to deliver these meetings online or these classes online. So those are some things to consider. But today's episode really is about when you're actually working from home or working remotely, what are some considerations? And from my experience, the first thing, and really interesting, a lot of this stuff I teach on my meetings course, and it's really even more significant now. When you're working online, you really need to keep the size of your meeting small. You can't have more than about 10 people. The software will allow you to have lots of people. I think the software I use, you can have about 25 people on one web meeting. However, the reality is that you've got so many people coming in that at the moment the network's really saturated. There's a lot of traffic across the internet at the moment. So that's going to have a massive impact on how effective that meeting is. So if you've got people logging in and then their connection's dropping, they're logging in, they're dropping off, this creates a lot of stress. Working or holding meetings online is much more difficult than having a face-to-face meeting, personally, from my experience. It's very tiring. So if you're doing this in English and English is not your native language, it's going to be quite a demanding and tiring experience for you. So to combat these challenges, these communication challenges that the technology presents to us, you need to really be well organized and have very clear meeting objectives. Keep the meeting size small and make sure that only the relevant people are at that meeting, and try and keep your meetings to 1 hour maximum. I'm giving classes from all afternoon. I'm doing between 4.5 hours and 6 hours a day of online training, and it's exhausting. It's a very tiring experience. I'm running those classes back to back almost to manage all of my students and the needs, because you can't teach a class. If you've got a class of people physically and it's 12 or 13 people in a classroom, that's easy to manage. If you've got 12 or 13 people online, you're going to have to split that group into 6 or 7 people and then have 2 groups. So that's much more, it's going to make it much easier to manage online. So smaller meetings, they're going to require more time over if you have to spread out these meetings, but short 1 hour long meetings with 5 or 6 people, that is definitely the way to go. That's my recommendation for you. You're going to struggle because not everyone's going to have the same quality internet connection. Depends on the network. If the network's being like hammered with traffic, then it's going to have a big impact on the video quality and the sound quality. And all of these things are going to create communication problems, which are going to make people struggle to really effectively attend a meeting. So remote working requires planning. It requires meetings with very clear objectives, 2 or 3, and it's going to require 1 hour long meetings. If you can't get it done in 1 hour, just break it up into smaller meetings, but put breaks between the meetings just to help you break up, these long meetings and make them much more effective and easier. If you're not a native English speaker and you're attending these meetings and remote working, it's going to be more difficult. You're going to get tired. So if you're leading teams or if you're working for an organization, you need to consider these things. You need to make sure that you have appropriate software or appropriate web meeting programs and software. I've got one I use. It's great. It allows you to have a whiteboard. It allows you to share PDFs so people can see the screen if you're working on data. I've also got one of these, which is an XP pen writing pad, and with a pen, a digital pen, you can write. It connects via USB. You can write on the screen. It's really great for directing people to the information they need to see. You can circle things, highlight things. It becomes a much more interactive experience. That is going to make a big difference as well to the experience and the overall transmission of information from one person to another. So those are some considerations that you need to have when you're trying to work remotely. You've got your WhatsApps and you've got your phone. That can also help. You can quickly call someone if they are having trouble. I'm also using AnyDesk. AnyDesk is a remote control. You can remotely control someone else's computer. That's a big help as well. Sometimes people they can hear you, but they haven't set up their camera properly or their mic properly, and they're confused about how it works. And you can just quickly log into their computer. You've got control over it. You can quickly go to the settings and check to make sure it's running okay. And you can also check on the internet speed. Some of my students have got a low internet speed, and that really has a massive negative impact on the quality of the call or the video call. Okay, so those are my tips. Make sure you've got everything organized. Make sure you've got highly focused meetings. You keep them to 1 hour. You've got the appropriate technology, and that you have breaks and divide things up. One more thing that you should consider when you are working remotely is that you're going to be at home. So the division or the barrier between what's your private life and your work life, it becomes blurred, and it's very difficult for you to really know when enough's enough and when it's time to have a break. Okay, so try and have a very good routine for the day. Divide up your day, have a plan. Our family's got a plan. It's on the fridge. Everyone knows what's happening at certain times of the day. Now it's time to rest. Now it's time to work. Now it's time to have lunch, etc. Just simple things like that. Because you're going to spend more time working than you think, and it's going to become quite consuming. And finally, another tip is to have a bit of a morning routine. Most entrepreneurs swear by this routine. I've learned from the Hal Elrod's method from The Miracle Morning. It's a book about a morning routine. Now he's got his savers. Now savers are like silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and scribing, so writing in a journal. Those are his tips. I just follow some of them. I usually, in my morning routine, do a bit of meditation just for 5 or 10 minutes. You just sit down, close your eyes, cross your legs, and let the thoughts come into your mind, but then let them go. You just don't dwell on them. Just don't think about things, because it's impossible to have a completely clear mind, especially if you're not really, you're not really experienced at meditating. So just let the thoughts come in and let them go. And then you can also do a bit of yoga. I like to do a bit of yoga or stretching just to get the body moving. And you can also do a bit of exercise, so some star jumps or whatever, some push-ups, burpees, whatever. And then a bit of reading if you've got time is nice. And, especially if you're in a situation like us with this, the coronavirus, just writing some ideas in a journal, it's a good way to start your day. So I recommend that. Make sure you don't, just spend all day working like I have been. It's been really crazy. I've been working day and night. But make sure you have time for your family because, for example, most people now who are confined to their house, they're confined with their children and they also have to work and, it's just a bit chaotic. So having a routine is really important when remote working. And, get out of bed early, have a shower, get dressed. Don't stay in your pajamas all day and make sure that you eat healthy food and drink lots of water. Okay, you don't want to eat junk food and sit on the couch eating like chocolate and things like that. Okay, so keep healthy and have a nice routine and take into consideration my tips on managing your online meetings. Okay, so that's it for me, guys. I'm exhausted. I'm really tired. I'm going to run and go off and head to bed. But before I go, I've got the Art of Business English website has had a complete facelift. We've got the new store up, so you can take advantage of the crisis prices offers I've got here for coronavirus. Now's a perfect time to invest in yourself, in your education. You've got plenty of it. If you are at home and you can find, why not grab a course? I've got them all at 50% off. And yeah, lifetime access. You can spend all day learning English, improving your business English. I've got my premium course on meetings, my premium course on improving your email writing. I've got my social English course on how to engage people in conversation. I've got a bunch of general English courses, and if you do want to get a Cambridge certification, I've got a first certificate course for English certification, and I've got an advanced English certification course. So head over to the AOB website, check out the university section of my website, and take advantage of the coronavirus time that you're in confinement and the prices that I've got 50% off everything. And learn some English, improve, and make good use of your time. So that's it from me, people. If you've got any ideas on when you're in confinement, chuck them down below. If you've got any experience from remote working, then love to hear from you. As long as I stay healthy, I'll be here next week to give you some more updates on what's happening here in Spain and some more tips from me. Take care, guys. Take care, and I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.